Joining us is Kaycee Brock, the new winner of the Seat 8 at Large for the Atlanta Public School Board. Kaycee, thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So you have gone through the original election, you went through a runoff, you beat your opponent, Royce Mann, and now you are looking to join the Atlanta Public Schools Board. Your reaction when you received the phone call from Royce Mann conceding that race?
Yeah, it was interesting. I wasn't expecting it. But then a couple people told me that he might be calling me. So he gave me a call, and I thought it was classy for him to make that decision. We still have a lot of conversations to have, and I told him that. So we are going to meet soon, have coffee, talk through everything. But the runoff it was a little bit of a different vibe there, and so I'm excited to have a conversation just about our stance on a few different things and some of the things that I heard.
Sure. Of course, and that's expected as we, when you get close to that competition. Yeah. I do want to ask you, is there a bit of criticism from his campaign that you felt just wasn't right or that you wanted to address?
Yeah. Lots of it, yeah. I think what I learned about, I'm a first-time candidate. He's run before, and something I realized is no matter how close you are in your ideas and your beliefs, people are going to try to polarize things in a nonpartisan race. I think there's an effort to create as much difference as possible, just for the sake of being able to win over voters. And so I think the perspective I came from was, I'm an educator, I've been in education for a long time. This is, I'm coming to you with that experience. Whereas I think not just him, but just from the opposition, there was a painting or a depiction of me in a certain way and in a certain light. And so I'm excited because people have asked me, how are you going to bring over the other side? And I'm like, I actually don't think it'll be that hard, because I genuinely do believe that there are a lot of things that he believed and that other people do that I believe in as well. And so I'm excited to have those conversations and talk to people and hear what they have to say.
Was there anything in particular, like one example that you're willing to speak about?
Yeah, I think that I was painted, that he was the progressive candidate, and they kept saying that as if I'm not progressive. And I actually am pretty progressive. There are a lot of things that, he believes in and that people aligned with him believe in that I also do. And I think the challenge is with running a race like this, there's two options you have. You either address what is being said about you, or you don't address it because you don't want to bring attention to it. I was very intentional about running a positive campaign. And I think for me, my students were cheering me on from all over the country. They were checking in, they were refreshing. And so it felt really important to me to maintain that positivity. I did learn that sometimes going negative does help. And so I know that for next time, it's something I'd rather not have to ever do. But the things that I'd say probably one that I'm not progressive is one that that's not true.
One of the big ones.
And then there was a lot of conversation about charter schools and how I feel about charters. And I've always been very consistent on what I feel about that, which is I think there's a place for charters, but I'm not a pro-charter candidate, but I believe that if any students that are in our school in APS are students that we need to take care of, and any schools that are in APS are schools that we need to support currently. Yeah. But I'm not trying to privatize anything. I'm not all of these different things that were said. I was like, what? I've never said any of it. And I think that's a challenge, is even if you didn't say anything or you didn't, say you believe anything, people can still say that that's true.
Well, hey, you're here right now setting the record straight. It is out there now. Kaycee, thank you so much for that. Now, you bring up the privatization of schools, charter schools, from the opposition that with these campaign attacks. I do want to ask you about this because recently the APS School Board, as you know, voted to either eliminate or restructure more than a dozen schools. They plan to implement this by 2027. You were not part of this vote, but you will be a part of the board that's going to implement it. What's your message to families who feel like their communities will be dismantled by this and their voices were not heard?
Yeah, it's hard because the school it's something that it's a part of your community. It's like the soul of every community. It's where young people grow up. It's where so many people have memories. And big moments of their lives. And so I definitely understand how difficult it is for families. And for me, I just want to be able to be a trustworthy source for them to go to be somebody who will truly partner with them as we move forward. But I've said this before and I'll say it again, like I just don't want us to be in the same position 10 years from now. And so to me, that's the lens I'm coming from. You know, how do we make sure that our schools are so great that if you live in that community, you want to send your kid there? How do we make sure that the existing schools are stabilized and have the resources they need? And then also the merger matters. I've had experience as an educator, and I know what it's like for schools, for students to come together from different communities. And that's something we're not talking enough about, but even just that culture of the school matters. And so I think there's a lot of thought that needs to go into it, a lot of intention. And my hope is that even though there's so much noise around it, that we can all bring the noise down and work together so that we can make sure that our schools are thriving and that in 10 years we're like, look at APS, this is where everybody wants to be, no matter what part of town you're in. We're really proud of the school that's in our community.
Now, let me just ask you a follow-up to that, because some people are concerned that the money saved, that's what the board said, they're voting on this to try to save money to restructure schools. They're concerned that the money saved could potentially not go directly back to APS, but potentially go towards that privatization or charter school expansion that could be out of reach for some families. We know that charter schools don't necessarily cost families, but it could, it's hard for those students to get in. So taking money from, you know, the public sector where everything is available and then moving it to private, clearly that's a concern. You're not on the board quite yet, but just hearing that concern, what can you bring with you to the board to address that when you take your seat?
Yeah. Well, a charter school hasn't been approved in APS for a very long time. And so I highly doubt, I'd be shocked if one of the first moves was to bring in more charter schools right now. And then I think there's a conversation about different types of charter schools, right? There's the APS ones, which I'm like, those are the schools that we are responsible for. We need to make sure that they're being held accountable, but also that we're accountable to them and giving them the support they need to thrive. But then also there are state charters, and those are popping up, you know, in quite a few areas. And that is a situation where we don't have any say or any involvement at all in how the schools are operating. And so I think there's this conflation of charter private, and they're also different because also private schools are a choice that a lot of families are making as well, which APS is not involved in either. And so to me, like the number one goal is to make sure that our traditional district schools are as strong as they possibly can be, so that that is the choice that the community wants to make, so that there isn't a desire to bring in some new innovative model because we've got it in our traditional district schools. Because the diversion study that was done with APS said that a lot of people were leaving the district because they felt like those programs weren't here that they needed for their families. And so my goal is to make sure that we have those things in place so that there isn't this need or this desire to have a bunch of other options pop up because we've got it under control here.
Because your homeschool is now the one that you want to be
Exactly. Like every cluster in APS should be strong and one that everybody would feel excited to send their kids to.
Excited and proud, yeah. What is one promise that you can make right now that APS families can hold you accountable for in your first 100 days?
Oh, I love this question. That's a good one. There's so many I'm thinking of. I will be present. I am excited to show up for people, to show up for the community, to listen, to be available. There are very few people that can say that I did not respond to them during this campaign, and I intend to continue to be responsive and to hold space for community voice. To me, that's the most important thing I could do as a board member. I feel responsible for people who elected me, and then I also feel responsible to those who didn't, to making sure that I'm always remaining open to them and their ideas, and having that kind of balance that I'll need as a board member to make great decisions.
Thank you for that. During our interview that we spoke before the election, you said that your priority day one was improving these literacy rates. So now that you have the seat, you're going in, I'm sure you have given it a lot of thought, a lot of plan. What is your message to those who elected you?
Yes, I'm so excited to make that my day one priority. Like, where is it? What's happening? And really just kind of understanding where is the money being spent on our literacy proficiency and improving those scores. What are the needs of the different schools that are implementing it? Where are the coaches? Like, how is that going? And just do a real assessment of the progress of implementing the science of reading. Because truly, we can talk about all these different things, but if kids are not reading, then what are we doing? Because it's school. Right, and the goal should be for us to graduate students who are career ready, who are college ready, who feel like they can kind of take on the world. And there's no way you can do that if you can't access information through literacy.
Thank you. My final question for you before I just leave it open-ended, and it has to do with what we're seeing in Washington. Congressional Democrats have raised the alarm about these expiring Affordable Care Act enhanced health subsidies. If these subsidies expire, would you support APS funding school-based health clinics as an option for parents?
I would need more information on where the money was coming from and how it would be spent, but I'd definitely be open to that. Unfortunately, I think something we all see is that the students cannot do well in school if they're not healthy, if they're not mentally doing okay, if they didn't get a good night of sleep, if they don't have a meal. And so we are going to have to start to think about how do we provide some of those resources with schools. I do believe there are ways that the community partners could potentially subsidize some of the costs of that, and so I'd want to be creative about the funding piece of it, but I would feel responsible for making sure that our young people do have the health care that they need. I believe everybody deserves access to health care.
Thank you, because I mean, so many families, the kids have their meals at school, potentially health care to see a nurse because that mom or dad might not have that health care at home. And like I said, I promised that was my last question, but I do want to leave it open-ended for 60 seconds. Just a message to those who voted for you and those who did not, those who also stayed home as you take your seat.
So I just want to share, I don't know, just look this way.
You can look at this camera.
This camera, there we go. Thank you all so much for those of you who elected me into this role. I promise to make you proud. And for anybody who didn't, I'm open. I want to have conversations. I want to be a voice of all people. And so I do invite you to just have those conversations with me, to listen, to learn. And I think that can go both ways. And so I'm excited to serve. I'm always going to be student-centered, and my goal is to do the best job I can do to make sure that everyone is heard and that I'm a great partner for communities of Atlanta. So thank you again, and I appreciate everybody who showed up and showed out to vote for me.
And I'm not going to say that I lied, but I do have a bonus question for you that I just thought about, that I just want to make sure that I ask before I let you go. You were supported by Mayor Andre Dickens in the campaign. How do you think that support helped you get over that finish line?
I mean, so the good thing about the endorsements I had, I can stand by all of them, right? Like, to me, I wanted endorsements that would be people I would be working with over the next 4 years, because that's important, right? As we're thinking about healthcare, as we think about, all of these different federal things that are happening, but also like locally what the needs are. You've got to work with city council on those things. You've got to work with the mayor's office. And of course, conversations and compromises need to be made. And so I'm proud to say I was supported by 7 city council members and also Mayor Dickens. And that means a lot to me because that conversation has already begun on what this looks like, and they know what's important to me, and I was very clear about that in those endorsement conversations. And so I feel like we're starting from a really great place where they understand my priorities. And so it was really helpful, and I'm just excited to work alongside all of the current council members in the mayor's office so that we can make sure that we're doing the best job we can for kids.
All right. Well, there you go. Congratulations on your race. We look forward to speaking with you a lot more as we enter into the new year. Dr. Kaycee Brock will be putting more information and this full conversation on 11alive.com. We'll also be talking about it this Sunday on the Georgia Vote. See you there at 11 o'clock.